healthy and then you get sick again. All right, so we will get started on today's training, which is really focused on that long-term success plan. As we talked about, I will bring up the share this that fit mind, the pillars that we're focusing on, and that's going to be the driver for success. So what we've already covered is really the difference between fat loss and weight loss and how they're two different things. And it's really important. The quality of food that we eat is important. The types of macronutrient breakdowns important. And those are the things that really will be the differentiator between fat loss and weight loss, as well as some other things that I'm talking about. Food quality matters, right? You feel more satisfied when you eat more balanced. You don't run into nutrient deficiencies, those types of things. Cravings go down, energy goes up, bloating goes down. Those types of things are all super important. And all, like I think I mentioned before how back in the day I did like IIFYM, which was like if it fits in your macros and if you fill your calories with just Pop-Tarts and candies and those types of things, you really don't feel great. So it's really focused on quality as well. There's a sweet spot between having that flexibility of all foods fit and then also making sure you're getting enough nutrient dense foods. And that's really where we want to get to. And that balance will look different for everyone. I don't know if you guys ever follow like the gym nurse on Instagram. She's a kind of popular Instagrammer, but she is super lean. Like you'll watch her food for a day and it's like pizza and like all these other foods. And she's just one of those, unicorn type of people that could eat basically whatever they want and still look really lean and fit. But most people aren't going to be able to get that place, but everyone's body responds differently. Everyone's a little bit more sensitive to certain things. The other things we've already covered is the short-term fixes don't work long-term, right? The going really low carb for like going all in, low carb, going very low calorie. These things work temporarily. And then all of a sudden we're back to the same things and feeling frustrated and wondering what went wrong. And that's really why we need a long-term plan and not just a short-term fix. Need a lifestyle change. We want to be working with our metabolisms. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more about that today, because that's going to be the key to long-term successful weight loss and maintenance. And we also talked about age isn't slowing down progress. I've shared, number of clients that I've worked with in their 60s, 70s, things like that, who have still seen weight loss progress, and how we used to think at 40 that everything kind of went downhill, but now we realize that it is until 60 there aren't starting to see some small changes in our metabolism. But the real importance is keeping up enough muscle and keeping a healthy metabolism, which is, again, important is strength training and really focusing in on that. That's a key piece of it. And anyone who's coming in, I apologize for having the wrong link out there. I don't know if that was just a mishap in the email or what happened. I'll double check in next week and make sure that is working and why those emails are not getting sent. I will have to look into it too, because I have a new software I haven't actually transferred everything over because I'm not loving some of the issues that I'm running into, but we will have that fixed. Lifestyle matters. That's something else we've talked about, how important that, we can't just look at the food that we're eating and the exercise that we're doing. Things outside of that matter. Are reducing stress, because we become more sensitive as we get older to our stress resilience. Habits matter, right? Sleep quality, emotions, self-care, digestion, mood. All of these things are a mix of our biofeedback, but also our behaviors outside of the gym and the food that we're eating that are really, really important, that tie into this stuff. And that's really that daily lifestyle that we talked about. And again, we brushed over all of this stuff. It's like, I can only go into so much detail in these 3 trainings. So today we're going to dig in deeper again with metabolism, a little bit of nutrition, and then that mindset piece of it too, which is really that missing link when it comes to stuff. I mentioned before that I originally just started to assign people macros, and I thought that was enough, and I thought I could get people to change. And then when I realized that we need to change our behaviors and that just having that perfect prescription doesn't matter, right? It's in the end of the day, we need to figure out how to get through these mindset blocks, how to get through other types of blocks and have it fit our lifestyle. And it has to be a sweet blend of all of these things. And no one program that I have with any of my clients are the same because of this, because everyone is so unique and their circumstances so unique. I could have the same, I've actually had worked with twins, women that were in their 50s, and even their food that they're eating and their calories and protein and all of that stuff looked different for their fat loss because they had different metabolisms, right? And they had a different personality. So we had to adjust for that. So it didn't even look with two twins, very close and, good friends, of course, good, close. They didn't have the same thing. So we have to recognize that. Some of the biggest mindset blocks that will hold women back when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to achieving your goals in general, right, is that all or nothing thinking. And that is one of the number one things. And I think a lot of the times it is driven for a lot of women is from perfection. Is this driven of like, I need to do it all, I need to do it perfectly. And if I don't do it perfectly, then I'm going to throw in the towel and then it's not right. But what you have probably recognized is in this time together that, so true. Yes. In this time together that you haven't been perfect. There have been times that you maybe like fell off track. There's been times that things have not gone as planned, but what you did is you kept going, right? That's what we need to start doing, is recognize that like we move forward by taking small little steps and not do it perfectly. We are allowed to make mistakes, and that is part of the process, but the all or nothing thinking is actually, like, in research, it's one of the number one reasons people regain the weight they lost, because of this thinking and thought process. And this all or nothing thinking ties into our entire life. It's not just around food and nutrition and that type of stuff. We see it in so many different areas. It's so common. So that is one of the biggest mindset blocks that I work on with a lot of women, and is on and off cycle. And that's what it is. It's like that switch of like, if it's not done perfectly, if I don't have the right time, if it's not the right season, if everything's not aligned, I'm not going to start, I'm not going to do things, or I'm going to completely like throw in the towel. The other third one is really relying on motivation, right? Motivation is fleeting. Motivation is a feeling. And when we feel motivated, which we may for these like short sprints, and that's what I said, like I can provide a lot of help you get with some of that motivation, because you have the outside accountability and you have a lot of things happening. It's a short amount of time, but over time, we will lose motivation, right? And here's the thing with motivation is sometimes we think it's like, I don't have motivation, and that's not true. We always have motivation. We just might be more motivated to do something else, right? We might be more motivated to stay in bed than to get up and do a workout. We may be more motivated to go grab the donut versus grab the chicken and broccoli, right? This isn't a matter of motivation. It's where your motivation is leaning towards. And if we always rely on motivation, we will never get the things that we want. We won't get the body we want. We won't get our workouts, and we won't be eating the way that we want, because over time, we need to rely on really building up these sustainable habits, as I've mentioned, building up this identity that I'm going to talk about in just a second. But, one thing that tried, I used to always feel very motivated when I would do the challenges, and I would feel like, oh, I just need more motivation, like a wedding that was upcoming, a vacation that's upcoming, because that feels like a really great amount of like a great driver. But what you're going to find is there's a difference between intrinsic motivation, which is like inside motivator, and external. And the external motivators will only keep you motivated for so long. So external could be this challenge, right? Winning a prize. It could be like an upcoming vacation. It could be someone like, pushing you into this type of stuff. That can be a motivator. And there's internal motivators, which we want to start to create, is things like, I feel really good when I go out for a walk in the morning, right? That's an internal motivator, intrinsic motivation. And that's what we want to start to rely on. It's like, I didn't feel like going to the gym this morning at all. It is leg day and it's Monday, and I'm like all set with it. And we just have very busy weekends right now. So the last thing I wanted to do was go to the gym. I actually was like halfway there, and I'm like, I could just turn my car around and go home and not do this. I could just go back to bed. But because I've built these habits up over time, and I'm more motivated to focus on my future self and know that I'm going to feel better in the future, and that I'm motivated after my workout and I feel really good after, that's a great intrinsic motivation example that isn't relied on focusing on motivation, because I was not motivated to go to the gym today, but I knew that I would feel better, and that's why I was driven to do that. Things like food labels, a lot of like labeling of good and bad foods, junk food, unhealthy food, on any of these derogatory names about foods can be a really big mental block for a lot of women. Thank you, Audrey. I'll have to check that out after. A book. Definitely deal with the perfectionism. So some of the good and bad foods, you know, if we're labeling like sweets as junk, I need to stop eating the junk. That's what I hear from a lot of women, and just be like, oh my God, I did so good. I did so bad, right? Depending on the foods we're eating. There is no moral value with the type of food we are eating, right? It's either some of it's a little bit more nutritious and some of them isn't as nutritious. It doesn't make us good or bad because we're eating those foods. That was created over time with past diets, with the way that we were brought up by our families. I was in a place where we weren't allowed a lot of certain foods in my house. And that created kind of like my monster, right? Of like, oh, this food's good and this food's bad. I'm not allowed to have this food. So when I have it, all of a sudden I overindulge in it. And that's what happens with a lot of women. I'm not allowed to have this food. This food is bad. So then all of a sudden, when we're allowed to have it, we go overboard. And then it feels like we don't have control when it comes to that food. And we want to control things by cutting it out. Some of the other things are that negative self-talk, beating ourselves up for following through on things. I'm not someone who could stick with anything. I'm an emotional eater. Like the more we label ourselves these things, I'm not someone who can stay on track. I can't stick to anything. All of these things, this negative self-talk becomes a spiral. So what I really do with a lot of clients is build up those wins over time and start to have them recognize that negative self-talk isn't helping them, but quiet the voice. The negative self-talk will always be there. I want you to know that, is not to feel bad about this. If you're like, hey, I've been doing this for a while, but like, I'm still hearing that negative self-talk, you know, I do too. I hear it, like, if I'm having a tough day, if it's been a tough week, or if I'm like, who knows what, bloated or something like that, after like going out and having a whole bunch of food out to eat, like I might have more negative self-talk. It's just how we respond to that negative self-talk is really the importance. And over time, we learn to hush that. I was someone who I could sit here today and I would say I can't even imagine that I am where I am today after how negative I used to be about myself in general, like very low self-esteem. So it's about recognizing those, but that is a huge mindset block for women, because what happens if we start to do that negative self-talk, we give up. And that's where not being persistent is the only reason you will fail. Not being resilient, not getting back up when you fall down, not keep going is the only reason you will fail. Without a doubt. If you stay on the same path and you just keep on making improvements and trying to change and working towards those, you will continue to make progress. I threw self-sabotage in there, but I feel like all of these mindset blocks are part of the reasons why we self-sabotage. But self-sabotage can happen also because we're fear of failing, right? Fear of success. There can be so many other different things that could be causing self-sabotage. That we may need to be working through, right? Of like, you know, fear of being successful, right? It sounds like a strange concept, but if you are successful, well, that might mean that you're someone who's not drinking as much, or you're someone who's like not enjoying all the fun foods. And what does that do to your social relationships? How does that affect your relationship? That piece of it can be a little bit of fear in there as well. And the last mindset block, you know, there's probably like a million more that I haven't even dug into, but these are like the most prominent ones, is not creating any joy in it. Like in my mind, I used to always say, I will be happy when I'm XYZ weight, right? I will be happy when my body looks this way. So then I postponed my happiness of like, no, I won't have the, I won't enjoy something like a cupcake because I'm not where I want to be and I can't get there. Until I get there, then I'll have joy in it. Then I'll feel proud of myself, right? Once I follow through on these things, then I'll be happy with myself. So if we're postponing it and not providing joy within it, then we're not going to be able to stick with it, right? And that means joy, not only in like enjoying some of the foods you're eating, but in the things that you're doing. Like, how can we make taking your walk fun? How can we provide some joy into like your workouts or into, I don't know, I'm trying to think of self-care, right? Like if we're not providing ourselves any type of joy, it's going to be really hard to stick with it. So the first step with any type of mindset block is always awareness, recognizing why it's happening, but without judgment. That's always where we want to start to see, is like starting to recognize where these cyclical maybe cycles are happening. And they're like, maybe it's like the all or nothing thinking. Maybe you do good all week and then Friday comes around, you went really hard on all week. And then Friday, you're just like, oh, I'm so exhausted. I'm just going to like order the takeout and have the bottle of wine, right? Is that where like that's happening? So starting to recognize those things, again, not beating yourself up, but just building that awareness over time. And there's different strategies you can use for all different concepts. But I mean, again, these are much deeper when so dependent on what you're doing. But one thing that can be really helpful for a lot of these is, again, not having it a right or wrong type of food, that there's all food and there's no food off limits is going to be the number one way to help with this. And then just keeping on not giving up and being persistent when it comes to stuff. So I wanted to give you an example of a client who was also in a similar spot with the all or nothing thinking. That was the number one reason. She said she came here. It's moving the little box over here. So she was a working mom of she had 2 kids. She actually had grown kids. She was young, but she had kids young. So she had actually a granddaughter, and she was like in her early 40s. And she struggled with all or nothing thinking that was leading her to binge restrict cycles. She wasn't consistently working out. She had a lot of negative self-talk and beating herself up over getting to a place where she lost the weight, and then she had it come back on, and that really frustrated her. And she had tried macros on her own. She had actually gone through a great program, a big group program, and really, focused on reversing herself up, but she just, something else wasn't there, right? It wasn't coming all together. And she had said initially, she said, I struggle with holding myself accountable to my nutrition goals. I've done well if I hyper focus on food, but I cannot and do not want to sustain that level of focus for long term. So she felt very food focused when she came to me. And the big things that we shifted is, one, we started off her at maintenance. We started her initially, she was going on vacation, and I like for her to start to allow some of these foods was a huge shift. So she was allowing herself ice cream. She was allowing herself these fun foods, and she was allowing herself to make mistakes, like finding out like, okay, I know that if I have a little bit of this, it's usually going to lead me to a little bit more. But over time, what we found the problem was really not prioritizing herself and her recovery, really not eating enough in a calorie deficit when she was going into one. So she'd find herself binging, and she'd find herself overeating and doing the wrong type of training, right? Really cardio focused, and then trying to eat perfectly. That was like her big issue when she was trying to break this all or nothing thinking. And we went through multiple phases. She's actually got to a place where she graduated and everything, but she got to a place where she was going to go into another cut to try to trim down a little bit. And she's like, you know what? I'm not even going to start until January. And this was like towards the end of the summer. And that growth mindset of like someone who's always been trying to diet for as long as they can remember, to be like, hey, I am actually going to hang out maintenance even longer, and I'm going to hang out here and build muscle, is a huge mental shift. And it's 100% possible to get you to that place over time. If you're someone who's scared to eat more, if you're scared to be at maintenance, if you have like this, okay, like I can't trust myself with a lot of these foods, and don't believe that you can be successful long term, because that was where she was. She had that balance before, and then she just felt like she became hyper focused. So long term success, maintenance is more important than you think. And that is where body composition changes happen. So if you want to look leaner, if you want to look more muscular, if you want to look more toned, if you want to look more ripped, whatever you want to call it, that magic happens at maintenance. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Long-term success also comes from having a flexible metabolism that's healthy. And what I mean by flexible is meaning we've been staying at maintenance for a while, and then when we go into a deficit, we see changes. We see, your weight dropping. We see fat loss. We see that when we bring calories back up, we're not gaining a whole lot of weight, right? That's something that's considered like a flexible metabolism, is that it's not something like I drop your calories and then you lose like a pound and then nothing else changes and you're like kind of stuck there. That's in a place that would be unhealthy. So the right winning mindset, kind of as I was talking about, is always believing in your success. Habits and lifestyle, already talked about that. Balanced but flexible eating habits. Again, you will learn where, I work with all my clients on what wiggle room do we have for you. In some clients, they don't have as much wiggle room, right? Like I feel like I'm in that medium. Like I feel like years ago I was in a place where I didn't have as much wiggle room, but now I have a little bit more now that my metabolism's in a lot better of a place. But everyone's how much they can enjoy and how much they can push things is different. Everyone even has differences in how how big their maintenance range is, so to speak, and how big their range is for allowing for things like extra alcohol, or allowing for lack of sleep, or allowing for other things, right? Everyone's a little bit different. And then balanced but flexible eating habits, which I was mentioning, just, having that variability. Everyone's a little bit different. Some people need a lot more quality of food, right? Someone who has hypothyroidism and thyroid issues, we actually need to focus on more quality of foods because your body is a little bit more sensitive. That's just an example. If you're moving your body the right way, we talked about this strength training, getting in those steps, really focusing on that, scaling back on a lot of that cardio. A lot of that hit can be really hard on your body over time. And then creating that 2.0 version of you and your identity. And what I mean by this is, a lot of you that had joined the VIP sessions, we talked about who your future self was, right? We talked about who you wanted to be in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year from now, and what that looks like. And that's who's going to, if you keep repeating the same exact things you've always been doing, you're not going to change who you are, right? That's why we create our 2.0 version of ourselves, is we're trying to build that newer version of ourselves that can support the things that we want, with that body that we want, that can support the lifestyle we want without feeling like we're like spinning our wheels constantly or putting a ton of effort in it, right? Like for me to maintain my weight right now doesn't take a whole lot of effort. I don't have to like really think about it much. I don't have to change my lifestyle much. I don't have to do anything just to maintain my weight. But my past version of myself, like it's a big leap from there. But over time, that stuff, it takes time and it will be created through your identity, right? And the right strategy, roadmap, and accountability is really a lot of times the key for women, because I have so many times when we're like, I knew what to do, but I'm not following through on it. So it's really just finding and putting the puzzle pieces together to make it work. And when we talk about the nutritional side of making sure your metabolism is in a healthy place, I want to cover this. And this is called nutritional periodization. You don't need to worry about like memorizing this, but this is kind of an explanation of how the phases when it comes to nutrition and how that looks like, and what I'm talking about, if you heard me use different scenarios. And if we look at here, this is our maintenance. And we talked about without our metabolism is our maintenance, where we should be, because there's different types of maintenance. We could be maintaining on very low calories, and that's not our true maintenance. So this is really our true maintenance, where our body is healthiest. We're eating an abundance of calories. We're not losing, we're not gaining. And as you can see, it's not this one number, it's a range of numbers, and everyone's range will look a little bit different. Some people, their range for their maintenance is smaller, right? Like I can go into like 50, 100 calories extra of my maintenance, and that will put me into a surplus. Some people, it doesn't affect them at all. Where we're gaining weight this is a surplus, right? Weight gain. This can also be during a muscle gaining phase as well too. Most women are not going to spend their time into this situation unless it's more of like accidental and they're just eating more than is planned. That's how we gain weight. But a lot of times we're going to be focusing in on the calorie deficit, right? Starting at lower calories, but then over time, this is where the periodization comes from. We want to be increasing our calories back up to maintenance. We spend time in a fat loss phase and we spend there for a short amount of time, and then we go back up to maintenance. And that may look, if you heard of reverse dieting, this is the missing piece for a lot of women. They don't realize that there's like a strategy to bring yourself back up, that it's not just like, okay, I'm just going to go back to everything that I used to do. That's what I used to do. I'd lose weight and be like, all right, I'm going to go back. Like, that's great. I finally got to my goal weight. And then I used to be like, why am I gaining all the weight back? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Like, I lost the weight. What is wrong with me? Like, what am I doing wrong? I used to think that like there was something wrong with my metabolism, because I'd be like, I just looked at a piece of bread and now I just gained like 5 pounds. And it's very common because we're not aware that there's like a strategy to building ourselves back up. Even if you're someone who's done macros, tracked your macros, I find a lot of women have been missing these periods, this periodization, right? Spending time in a fat loss phase, spending time moving your calories back up, and then spending time at maintenance and really focusing on that. Like I said, the surplus is amazing. I've done one myself to build some muscle, but it's not for everyone. So I won't go into detail. Here's another representation of periodization. So this is an example of going into a calorie deficit for 12 weeks, making sure we have a dedicated time. So many women will just be like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight. And you're like, how long you been into deficit? Like, I'll hear like 9 months, 12, a year, longer than that. And it's never ending, right? Having a dedicated amount of time can be really helpful for your mindset to be like, all right, I don't have to stay in here forever. I'm going to use a lot of like extra energy. I'm going to, like make a few little extra sacrifices because I know I'm going to be coming out of here Like I said, this is an example, 12 weeks, and then bringing your calories back up in this reverse diet. I have women that will actually need the reverse diet before they can even focus in on fat loss, as I mentioned. And then that might be maintenance for 12 to 6 weeks. Ideally, we kind of want to be at maintenance about this time we're in a deficit. That's like a hard, kind of a hard rule. Not a hard rule. I think a hard rule would be like 4 to 6 months to stay at maintenance. Sometimes we can sneak that a little bit less depending on how much someone has to lose. Any questions on that piece of it and how we, again, it's like having seasons, like a baseball player, a football player, they go their off season, they have their on season. That's how we focus on having a post diet plan. So we have this post diet plan of bringing our calories back up, learning our new maintenance while tracking our food. And then over time, we know our new maintenance. We know what it feels like to maintain. If we choose to not track anymore, we can start to do that. Or if we choose to go back into a deficit, that's what we want to focus on. Yes, I wish I knew about this years ago too. I think many years, 15, 20 years of wasted time to think like, why isn't this working? But what's so amazing about tracking your food and using this as a tool is there's like, or at least like with a program that with my clients is there's a strategy portion of it, but then there's also like that mindset portion of it too, right? Because there's a strategy of this, like this strategy is great. We have like documented stuff to do, but if you can't follow through with it, or if you're finding yourself like falling back into like other behaviors that aren't helpful, then it's not going to, the strategy isn't gonna matter, right? There has to be another side to it. And that's where I like had that fit mindset. That's where I created that, because I found so many times myself and other clients, they needed more than that. They needed more than just a strategy of numbers, because at the end of the day, there's going to be things that come up. We're going to have lifestyle issues. We're going to have times we fall off track. There's going to have like holidays. We're going to have all these other things to work through, that we need to go beyond that. Yes. The eating more while trying to lose weight. I mean, Carolyn, you're on on there. You know all about that, right? Who was eating way less calories. You can check out her story. She did a client interview with me. She's in the Facebook group as well. And she was in the same thing, you know, eating less calories. We bumped her up and she started to lose weight. And then another scenario where Dawn, she's also in the group. She's not on the call now. She's started with me about 1,400 calories. We needed to work on restoring her metabolism before she went into a fat loss phase. But I think she was in the chat before, and she's on there as well too. She reversed herself up. We reversed her up. We hung out at maintenance for about 12 to 16 weeks. And then when she was ready, we dropped her down. She wasn't losing at 1,400 calories. Now she was losing at 1,600, because we spent that time and dedicated that time at maintenance so she could restore her metabolism and get back to it. And if you have a lot of weight to lose, you'll need to go through multiple cycles of this. It's not like we can just go and lose 100 pounds all at once. We need to do through short segments, and this is going to actually make it more sustainable. So let's talk about our success blockers. And these are the things that will make it harder to get to our goals. And some of the things that I see a lot of women will hold a lot of women back. And this all comes down to our like dieting mindset again, is the chronic dieting, right? Is constantly always on a diet. Even if you aren't in a calorie deficit, there is definitely a feeling of like scarcity when you're in your head saying, I need to be losing weight. I need to be losing weight. I need to not be eating this. I shouldn't be having the bread. I shouldn't be eating this. I shouldn't be having that. You will find that even if you're not sticking to the low calories and you're going over because you're having this all or nothing thinking, it feels hard and it feels like you're putting a whole lot of effort in, but not seeing the results that you're looking for. A negative mindset, right, is going to be a blocker, right? It's very normal to have negative thoughts. It's how we respond to them. And that's something to, over time you'll learn. It's so normal. And like the worse you feel, like if you're having a really bad day and, maybe you slept like horrible, or you're sick, or, there's just like some hormones, right around your period, you might have more of a negative mindset. But that's okay, because you don't have to like feed into it. It's how you respond to those mindset. And over time that voice will hush, because you've been focusing on the positive things. That's why I've been so focused on the wins, because the more we focus on the wins, we're going to start to look towards the wins, right? We look towards, I forget the name of it, but we look towards those types of things. I'm going to give you an example. If you ever bought a car and all of a sudden you look around, you're like, oh, that person has the same exact car as me. Oh, that person has the same exact car as me in the same color. You'll start to recognize these things because you are looking for them, right? So our brain will do the same thing. If we start to focus on our wins, our brain will naturally start to pick out these positive things around it, just the same way as if we have bought a new car and it's like this red Jeep. Oh, look around. Like all of a sudden it feels like the whole world has a red Jeep. We got a new dog and all of a sudden the whole world has a chocolate lab, right? That's how our brains work. And again, that our brains are always trying to keep, like, they're smart. They're actually trying to help us in a way, and they're just trying to make it easier on us. And that's why they constantly will look towards these things, because it's trying to create less energy that it's burning by doing these things. So if it always has done a negative mindset, if you struggle with I don't know, say like getting up in the morning, or you struggle doing your workouts, and it's a challenge to do them because it's effort that your brain has to put in. So your body is going to want to try to resist that a little bit. And it's working towards that. Constantly stressed out. Stress is going to put you into like a more of a fight or flight mode, which helps you not reach your goals, because you will be so you exhausted, your motivation goes down, your ability to think quickly and make good choices go down. All of these things can be impacted by chronic stress, and any type of stress. Stress can be, even as we talked about, perfectionism can be a stress on your body if we're constantly, fueling those types of thoughts. Not moving enough is important. It's a success blocker, right? If you're only getting in like 4,000 steps a day and you're not moving enough, can definitely cause extra weight gain over time and your body not to function properly, as well as overdoing exercise. Been there, both sides of the spectrum. Not handling our emotions, not only that physical stress, but then it can lead to like the emotional side, right? The throwing in the towel, the emotional eating, taking no breaks from dieting, right? And no breaks in general in a fat loss phase. That can be a success blocker. Never reversing or not spending enough time at maintenance. Missy, who I've had on before, and one of my client successes, she came in and we worked together years ago in a group program, and she came in, she was eating 1,200 calories. I'm like, Missy, we got to get your calories up. So she tried to get her calories up. She didn't bring them up altogether. And then she ended up working with a different coach because she was working with like a personal trainer. That person put her into a surplus accidentally. She put on a lot of weight. And then she came back to me and she's like, I think I'm like, I would be talking back and forth, and I wasn't working with her, but I was trying to help her because I knew that she knew where she wanted to get to. And over time, she ended up winning the scholarship, I think back in January. And when I went to her, I was like, hey, let's see where you're at. She tried to go into a deficit, and immediately I looked, I'm like, you're not eating enough. So we're like, we'll attempt a deficit. We tried a deficit. I'm like, nope, it's not going to work. Brought her up. She went off on her own, and she just messaged me the other day and she's like, Kim, I lost 6 pounds, but look at these pictures. And she finally got to a place where she's seeing her body respond again. So it's like, we need to make sure that we're spending enough time, and the time wasted into trying to go deeper and deeper into a deficit is going to make you spin your wheels and push you that much further away. And I know it's scary and it's hard, and it's like, okay, no, but I want to lose weight. Why am I going to be in maintenance? That's where the magic happens. That's where we're building muscle. That's where we're going to look our best. And then after that, we shed the fat to look the way that we want to, right? If we picture someone we really like and we're like, hey, that person has a great physique, they have a great body, most likely they have a lot of muscle, right? That's one thing that happened to me is if you ever lost weight and I was like, okay, I feel like I'm skinny fat. That's because I didn't have enough muscle. I did not spend enough time in maintenance. I did not spend enough strength training. And that's where a lot of women get hung up as well too, to not see the body they want. Going back to old habits, right? As I mentioned, you repeat the same things, you usually end up with the same result, right? We go back to like maybe drinking like, I don't know, like 6 beers a night or something like that. We're going to get the same results that we had before. So those habits are really important. Again, not focusing on the habits and lifestyle. And then these binge restrict cycles, right? I totally messed up. Now I'm going to kind of punish myself and either undereat, or maybe I'm going to go and do a whole bunch of exercise and then restrict. And then all of a sudden those cycles just repeat out and repeat and repeat. Okay. She's just saying she's leaving. All right. My like coloring looks really weird here because this light is awful. One more client spotlight because I think it's worthwhile. Julie is one of my clients, and she thought it was like, she didn't know what was going on. She wasn't someone who didn't eat healthy, right? She ate pretty healthy. She thought it was her hormones or age. She wasn't felt like she wasn't, just seeing the results she wanted. And what we found out, she wasn't eating enough protein or balanced. She was fasting at the time and eating only 2 meals a day and a couple of snacks. It probably wasn't enough to fuel her body, or she was ending up snacking later on and she was probably eating more than she thought she was. She wasn't doing the right type of strength training, which was really focused on building that progressive overload that we talked about. So I started writing her programs for her, and she started building more strength. She was in a picture, I think in one of the chats, or in a photo, I think she posted in the Facebook group the other day with her flexing, and she's looking awesome. I mean, look at her arms. I don't want to move my face here. You can see like a whole lot of definition change. Her body composition has really changed throughout this time. And her main goal was to rock a swimsuit the best I can in my 50s. And she just went to Aruba and she rocked a bathing suit and she felt really freaking good. So, her main goal too was like, I need to stop beating myself up over when I eat and how I eat, and having like that strategy was key for her, and just making that big shift. Yeah, she looks awesome. And yeah, so she's dropped a lot of fat. She's working on building that calories back up and then focusing in on that. But she's strong too. She's like doing dumbbell presses with like 40 pounds. She's amazing. So we've already talked through this roadmap, and that's where we're really focusing on that building it phase over these past 3 weeks, priming your metabolism, optimizing it, right? Really focusing in on that. But everyone's build it phase looks different than the others, because some women are focusing on more emotional side of stuff. Some women are focusing on like eating less sweets, and some women are focusing on adding in more sweets. Everyone's a little bit different on where they are. And the end goal is always to get to this maintained place where you have that permanent weight loss, you're feeling good, all of those things. So when I've run these challenges, I haven't even thrown out one-on-one coaching, but I wanted to offer that. I've had a number of people ask me about it. So if you're thinking about one-on-one coaching, you're like, do I need a coach? This sounds like I want to get to a place that you're talking about. These women sound like me. I want to get to that place where I feel like that freedom. I feel good in my skin. I like the results that I'm getting, and I love to keep that going further. Then this is for you. So if you struggle with consistency, staying on track, the stopping and starting programs, I should say stopping and starting, plateau, hitting a plateau, you feel like you're doing your workouts, but you don't look like it. That's something I did for years. Like, why am I pushing I'll do hour and a half in the gym and not look like I worked out? Sick of feeling stuck, know what to do, but not doing it. And you feel like you either fall off track on the weekend or certain periods of time, and you fall off track, and then you feel restricted when on a diet, and then out of control when not on one. So why one-on-one coaching? And it's going to help you reduce the amount of time it takes you to get to your results. There's no doubt about it, because when you have the strategy, the accountability, and the roadmap, you will be set up for success. You have the exact steps you need to do, and you're going to eliminate mistakes, right? Whether it's tracking mistakes or again, maybe it's like you need to be in focusing on your metabolism, and it's really, you've been trying to be in a deficit for so long. That feedback and advice on how to see the best results, changing your behaviors, habits, and mindset, which is going to help create that new identity for you. And stepping outside and investing in yourself is really one of the best things I ever did. And I did this the first time in I don't even know, 15 years ago or 12 years ago, into a life coaching program, and then into a nutrition program. And it really changed how I showed up. I will never not have a coach, no matter what it is. I'm just working with a behavior change coach myself that works with my time management skills. And that accountability and support, and a plan customized to you. What it will include is personalized macros and calories that fit your life, so you know exactly what to eat without stressing about it. And you don't have to think like, oh, is this the right food to eat, or is this the wrong food to eat? Am I supposed to be doing this? Is it working towards my goals? Is it not working towards my goals? Something that I struggled with for years. And that a weekly accountability and check-ins, so that you stay consistent and see better results without feeling like that frustration of spinning your wheels constantly, like nothing's working, right? Like some of my clients, where she's eating 1,400 calories and she's not losing weight. And she's like, well, I did Noom, I did these things and I saw weight loss progress, but I'm not seeing results, right? Knowing that you have those adjustments, and we pivot, we adjust no matter what's going on. guided goal setting for you and habit tracking to make sure that you have a focus for each week. So you're not spinning your wheels, like figuring it out. Cause oftentimes we're like, I want to get all my water and I want to do all my workouts. I want to do all these things. And there's like 17 things on the list. Like narrowing that down is going to be the key to seeing that long-term success. I will review your food logs and give you weekly feedback so you can remove any chance of error. And in turn, we'll see faster progress and don't have to stress that you aren't doing it right. Monthly strategy calls with me to reassess goals and set milestones to make sure you have clear strategy. Things like travel, vacations, weekends, like solid game plans are key to your success. And then also reflection. I have a library of resources and video training similar to some of the ones that you guys have already gotten in this challenge. And then voice text. So you have access to me to ask for feedback. We work on like going to food logs or anything like that. And we really focus in on not only those 3-phased approach, but building these strong pillars of success. And that's really where we focus in on. And if something like this, you're like, yes, I need this, just message me and we can talk through on what that looks like and how to get you the best results, but also like how you can stay over, like we have what this week left and how you can keep going afterwards, right? So you don't have to have a little space and time there too. Any questions on any of the stuff I talked about, nutritional periodization, long-term success, reverse dieting, maintenance, any of that type of stuff? Any feedback or anything on that? Okay, all good info. Amazing. Let me pop my face over here. All right. Does everyone feel like good and understand that cycle of periodization and like why we want to make sure that we're spending time in there? Does any of that need any clarity on that? I feel like that was a confusing piece for me. Like I understood the concept, but I was like, what? Yeah. All right. Any struggles anyone's going through? Anybody needs some coaching? Anything like that? Or we feel good? I know it's been 45 minutes. I'm always like, this is going to be 20 minutes. It's like way longer than I expect. No, everyone's good. Okay. Well, we have, of course, the Facebook group. You can always message me on the side if anything pops up. And there'll be the VIP on Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit about plateaus and managing those as we dig into that. And anything else, if you guys want me to cover anything on the VIP session, you can just message me and I can try to cover anything. But if not, we will see you on Wednesday if you're in the VIP. And if not, be in the Facebook group. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.